the Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And you're stinky.
Hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys, just some boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. I am Patrick Baskwell, and I love Roald Dahl short stories too.
And I'm John Gilardi, and I used to think that people on the other side of the mirror had their own little world. You know, that was just me in reverse, doing other stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a whole different world, a portal, if you will.
Huh.
But
nice. Did you tap it and switch places?
No, but I would like try and get weird angles and like pretend I was peeking into their universe.
Like, what are you
but
doing?
It was just the reflection
what are you doing
at
back
the
there,
angle.
guys?
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Mirrors.
What are you guys doing back there? Let's see what the vibe is.
Indeed. So,
Ha.
what did we watch this week?
So what did we watch this week? You guys know from looking at the little thing, but we're talking about Edgar Wright's foray into horror, maybe like more directly. Edgar Wright, director of the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The End of the World, Baby Driver, and other such real fucking entertaining things. Starring, oh my gosh, Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, and that's it. It's as far as like starring.
Yeah.
I think.
Whoa.
Yeah, little ghost tale, little fun little British jazzy thing.
Okay, that was like that. Was like
Some mental health.
Like you had a tasty treat that that felt refined. Is that?
It was tasty.
Okay.
I have thoughts, you know. Obviously, I have thoughts, but yeah,
I do
you want to
think.
synopsize it for us?
Yeah,
I do think. Yeah, I watch things, and I
forget the main character's name, but she is a fashion student, gets into a very prestigious school in London. She's come from the country.
Ellie.
Ellie.
Yeah,
and so,
Eloise is her name.
And you kind of get this idea that she has a sixth sense from the beginning because she can see her mom in the mirror. Her mom's passed away, and so she goes to the big city to do school, and you know she's kind of like the country bumpkin related to the other kids, and they kind of ostracize her, and then from there she kind of finds her own niche, I guess, in the city, if you will, with some kind of weird psychological time traveling. I guess it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where you watch it and you accept it, and it's fun for that reason. But yeah, I guess like in terms of the genre, I guess, or whatever you want to call this film, it definitely tries to be a horror film, but to me, it more came across as a psychological thriller or like something like that. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Did I hit the synopsis okay? Without?
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, any of the stuff that I would feel like I feel like that's a pretty good synopsis. If you're like, hey, it's like she's a fashion designer. Ellie's a fashion designer, and then like, you know, she goes and she has some like visions where maybe she's in the past. Is she part of it? And then there's this whole sort of like mental health other side of it that is interesting to me.
Yeah.
That I don't necessarily love, to be completely honest.
Well, it kind of felt unfulfilled in the sense of how it related back to her mom, because essentially the city ate her up, and
yeah.
You're like, whoa, is there some conspiracy where these guys are like pulling in girls through this weird loopy time? Oh, I don't know. Like that's what I was.
Yeah.
It's just like, what was I supposed to pick up there with the mom? Because you see the daughter Ellie kind of descent, and you're shown the descent very literally with this weird trippy thing, and then with her mom, it's alluded to that she
did something similar, maybe?
Yeah, and so that's unresolved, and there's some parallels that could be made, or to understand, or you know, maybe what's the lesson learned.
Yeah, I honestly think that it didn't do, like, the mental health stuff didn't do a whole lot to serve the story, because what it did is it sort of like it worked to explain away the trippy aspect of it. So it was like, instead of her, for a lot of the stuff was like, instead of her, and I think it's weird because I think it did a really good job of, you know, if there's like some like borderline personality disorder, like all of that stuff, all the things make sense as far as like a borderline personality disorder, or maybe some sort of like even bipolar mixed with like schizophrenia, because the brain is a weird soup and nothing is ever as like consistent as we feel like it is. And so it's like with all those different elements, it's like, yeah, that could be something where someone would kind of fall into some sort of weird fantasy land, to sort of cope with being in a new situation and like kind of dealing with some like emotional triggers and stuff like that. But I feel like it kind of more served to undercut the like the cool, not spiritual elements, but like the ethereal weirdness of it. And because it explained it so well, you know, it's like she's got some mental health stuff. She's got some fucking stuff going on with her brain that is having her make these connections. And I was like, oh, huh, okay, yeah. I like, honestly, that was one of the things I didn't necessarily like, even though it did a good job of explaining it or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe it didn't. Yeah, you're touching on, like, you're making me think about stuff now. I'm trying to, like, that I didn't necessarily see from that angle, but it's just, I think it's too good at that. Like, like the allegory is lost because it's so literally translated to what you're seeing on the screen.
Yeah.
So it's hard
that's
to...
that's like almost exactly what I'm saying, where, yeah, it's so direct that there's no bigger thing. It's like, no, this is what happens. No, this person was murdered. This isn't like her killing her mother or whatever, which, again, it doesn't need to be that, but I think that for me, if it's going to do like a direct telling, it needs to be either more mystical, and like,
or just,
she's maybe more normal. You can still have those elements of like,
well, just there,
oh,
everything
hey,
is so one-to-one, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I guess that comes down to everything's explained or contextualized or given a place. And I don't know. Like, it's a satisfying movie, but it is unsatisfying at the same time because it's so good at explaining it. You know, it's so buttoned up. And like, that's satisfying to me because it's all concise. It's all there. I have the answers. The other way, all
the answers are there.
But the process is very rigid, and you know, I think that's the issue. We get to the destination, we know everything. That's fine, but like the process is very direct. You know, instead of kind of open to interpretation. You know, there's some parts that are open to interpretation, like, spoiler alert, skipping the end, why she doesn't relinquish essentially the good old boy predators of their misery, of their death. You know, you can try and say that, like, I don't even know what you can draw from it, like her taking control or her giving the power to, I forget Anya Taylor-Joy's character. Like there's
Alexandra,
yeah. What's Sandy? Yeah. So there's a lot you can draw from that moment. You know, I think that's pretty ambiguous.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good moment.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That, for me, I was like, hell yeah, that's an interesting choice. That was really cool. For me.
Yeah.
But like, and all this to say is, because I'm going to continue to talk about it because I felt really strongly about this movie, because I really liked the visual stuff. Is a treat. Dancing between the two different worlds, that's like stuff that I love. Having an avatar, essentially, and like being a part of this world and like in and out of it. I love it. I'm eating it up. It's great stuff.
Yeah. I love period
and it's
pieces.
just sort of like, huh?
I love period stuff, so this is tons of it. It's like, I mean, I'm sure there's tons of stuff, but it gave me a little like that, like a little bit of a need that I wanted from the Anytime You Smile. What's it known to everyone?
Yeah.
God.
We Happy Few.
We Happy
rap,
Few, or
whatever.
even the like super cheeky staged version, like moments in Austin Powers of the 60s in London. Like, this just gave me a lot of it, you know, in a very grungy, dirty way too, which appealed to that We Happy Few. So that was really fun, and it was fun to live in that space. And that's all to, I guess I love the period piece, but like the visuals and the lighting, I mean, any movie that's worth its salt, you kind of feel immersed in that you're there. But it's a movie with a good surrogate, a surrogate who has personality too, which is nice. But even with then, you get in and you see all these things from her perspective, and it's really cool. Just like as a kind of history leaning not savvy, but history interested person or whatever. So that was a true treat, and that was a big interruption to just say I like that. I'm agreeing with you.
No. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think that's a big interruption. I think it's a good interruption. I mean, because it's like for me, it hits a lot of things. I love Edgar Wright. I love the way he cuts. I love the way he structures things. I think he just answered too many questions here, which sounds like a weird thing, and it also didn't help too. So the reason my intro was what it was is I was like in I think 7th or 8th grade, we read a short story by Roald Dahl called The Landlady, which is about a university student who goes to find a place to live, and then there's like missing people that's like given to you, but it's essentially like a lot like this in a much, obviously it's a short story. I think it's like 5 pages long or something like that. And it's like, it's a conversation between this new tenant, this tenant university student here in the city for the first time. And he has tea with his landlady, and his landlady, it tastes like bitter tea. And she's got a lot of stuffed animals. And the implication is that she killed the other people and stuffed them so that she could hang out with them.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Yeah, sort of.
I don't know. It made me think of that, the animatronics.
Yeah. But that was like, I was like, huh. I was like, is this, I wonder if, oh, huh. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. This is like that short story I read in fucking like 8th grade or whatever.
I feel like the chances are high on that being an inspiration. I mean, I think that's the cool thing is everything's derivative, and I think it's just the settings you use and the way you, I don't know, the way you do it. That's just very obvious statement, but you know, like there's the original ideas are maybe it's not impossible, you know. And I mean, even then, there's every filmmaker draws their inspirations, and saw this at the Alamo. Surprise, surprise! But that like one of the beginning chunks was Edgar Wright talking about his inspiration, which I love when they do that with the directors. And
what was his inspiration? Tell us about it. What did he say?
I don't remember. I saw this over a week ago, but I remember just him sharing things and then seeing them in the movie, you know, and just that concept that, you know, they're like people are constantly reinventing and being inspired, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially when it's a movie like this. You know, it's one thing when it's a Marvel movie or something, you know, whatever, but it's still valid in that format, and that's how that stuff is made fresh. But I don't know, it's just it's cool to see things adapted, I guess, and be it from a short story.
I'm not knocking him for it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it for if it is a sort of a loose adaptation of that. I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But yeah, I just sort of I was just like, huh, and it was just like a little bit more information than I had, you know.
Yeah,
that was like from a weird place that I was like, what the, no way.
Do you think Edgar Wright has some salty feelings towards the city of London or something? It's interesting because it's shot through her perspective, so it's a cool, wondrous place. But almost immediately, she's like yanked out of it with that creepy taxi driver.
Yeah,
and it's pretty much just downhill from there.
I think that's a good question. I think that, I mean, as with most people with cities, it's like kind of like a little love-hate relationship where it's a nasty, terrifying place, but also there's so many opportunities and so many cool things to see and so many like little discoveries to find. And then sometimes even the discoveries that you find are terrifying and not at all what you either expect or like necessarily even want, like her of like, you know, and then also, you know, you could kind of get lost in it because it's so old, especially a place like London, or if you were to go like to Rome, where it's like, you know, where London is a little bit like, it's like Rome light, you know, where there's probably sections upon sections of it that are like 4 levels deep, whereas like Rome is like fucking 15 levels deep.
Well, Rome's a lasagna.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool
it's a civilization lasagna.
Yeah. It's cool to see kind of the gilded or the kind of like the layer behind the nice gilding, the nice sheen of the 60s, the neon lights, the fun, the partying, and then you open up into that. And it's actually, I just thought of this, but it reminds me a lot of Midnight in Paris, which is very similar to kind of nostalgia and glorification of the past. Have you seen that movie?
I have not seen Midnight in Paris.
Oh, I don't know if it'd be not appropriate, but it'd be maybe too redundant to do a podcast, but you should definitely watch it if you're into this movie.
Yeah.
And thinking about
I like
things.
Owen Wilson. I want Owen Wilson. I want to see it.
I love that movie. The first 5 minutes is just Paris in the rain, and it's sublime, is I guess a way I'd explain it. But yeah, so it's very similar in that way, where that movie's about nostalgia, and you have Ellie, and she loves the old records and what have you, and all that. And then she goes there and she experiences and lives it in a sense, and she quickly gets under the nice veneer, and it gets the gross underbelly and the exploitation, and a time of no accountability and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
in a sense of studying, I guess, expectations
kind of like,
and nostalgia and stuff like that. And then maybe in a sense some things never change. With the taxi guy still being a creep and entitled. So it's like, I don't know.
And then also like seeing the worst in people, because you had Terrence Stamp there, and like seeing the worst in him as seeing him as the Matt Smith character versus seeing him as the Sam Claflin character who was in there for like a scene. And it was like, wait a second. And it's funny too how white casting is important, where as soon as Sam Claflin was in that scene, Sam Claflin is the guy who's the British guy,
the pimp?
Who's in, you know who he is?
But
for those of you who don't know, he was in The Hunger Games as the sexy guy. I don't remember. Was his name Finn? Is that right?
Oh, he's in that?
He was the sexy guy.
Oh, yeah. So he was the
Hunger
undercover
Games.
cop guy. Is that what you're saying?
He was the undercover cop guy. He's also in that movie with Emilia Clarke where he's like paralyzed and they love eeach other. I haven't seen it, but
okay,
that's what I assume happens.
One of the Weasley twins was in this movie.
Really?
Yep, he's the coat guy the very first time she goes back in time. And it's funny with those guys, they're always doing the Universal Studios events at the Hollywood thing. It's like, that's how you know their careers haven't taken off, which is sad that they're always at those events. And one of them got a 2-second role in this movie. Just a little nugget of information, I guess.
Interesting.
To interpret that your way, but that's my interpretation of it.
No, yeah. But also with casting, it's like as soon as I saw Sam Claflin, I was like, I'm supposed to pay attention to this character. As we've got these bunch of faceless men's.
Yep.
That's like, oh, I've got to pay attention to this guy. This is important, which is interesting.
It was a good because it was a good. The old man, the old Sam Claflin, was a good tool.
Yeah. To
kind of phase out like a line, like a projection of like a split tree of thought, of the pimp guy being killed or something, So like it was really cool. And almost also then maybe it kind of like set her why she was seeing things a certain way with the flashbacks, because she thought he was still alive. So she only saw them through a certain lens. And I think that was nice. And that's kind of like,
well, because also her expectations would be that Sandy is the one who's taken advantage of, and so that's a lot of her stuff put onto it. But she's
generally,
which was true, but it was also like, well, Sandy flipped it eventually.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's not clear too. Is the timeline? It doesn't matter, but it's just like, did she kill him first or at the end? And it comes across as at the end of her, obviously because you think she dies, but it's like if she did he kill him and then she decided I'm gonna go do these things, and then she voluntarily went into the seedy underworld to get control and kill these guys, or she did it along the process and she capped it off with him.
I kind of think she went first, got him, because that's a passion killing where she's like, I'm fucking done with it. And he if he brings the knife and then is presented that way, and she's like, oh shit, I got to defend myself. And then she's like, hold on, hold on, wait a second. Maybe this is the way to go right now for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I do this. Maybe I do this forever. Maybe this is what I want.
Yeah, and I like
You know?
that he's always defined as himself in these flashbacks when you have like the zombie dudes, because they were gray faces, you know. They were just one after another.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was a catalyst of, you know, she knows who she is, you know. And I'm sure
Yeah.
she knows the faces and can remember to some extent what she's done to these people, you know, this act of murder, you know, but like obviously this guy, the first one or the most important one to her development, you know, is the one she's going to remember. So it's just a cool, simple visualization of that, is seeing him as defined, and then you see the other guys as murky, gray, faceless kind of zombie ghosts. That was cool.
Yeah. I liked the way that they looked too.
Yeah.
It was very creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. I was like, I just think there were too many answers, you know, to a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
That's like really just goes back to Ellie's like mental health struggle, where it's like I really fucking like the story, even without any sort of like because I think that adding the mental health thing takes away from the mysticism of it, where it's like, you know, like if it's about her mental health,
Yeah.
then it's like she should be completely out of left field and should be completely sort of almost fully allegorical. Or we should think that it's much more completely allegorical, because I feel like we weren't given enough of like a bait and switch, because it's like people were leaned into it a little bit. And it's like, yeah, London's a horrible place. A lot of people got murdered. But then she goes through it and it's like,
What? Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the issue,
We just didn't get enough of a bait and a switch. It was like two in the middle and too many answers for both things.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the issue is that the story is resolved. Like the story is so resolved, and as I said, you know what it is, but this notion of an allegory there isn't. So there's no payoff. There's no development of it to an extent. You know, the payoff is the story payoff of her taking control and, you know, surviving Sandy and getting out with the boyfriend and you know, the ghost situation, and wrapping up that in a way that was justified. And like, so all that stuff was super buttoned up story wise, but the kind of emotional journey of this girl, it's not, you know, it's played with that it's mental health. It's played with that she's got this technical seeing ability of ghosts or something, you know, and it doesn't resolve into a thing at the end because she's just come out the other side and she's doing great at school. She's kind of stable, you know, but she's stable now because everything is resolved. You know, it's not because of the climax, you know, because of the moving action in the movie, it's resolved. You know, it's like, what did she, nothing, like, what happened then, you know? And what was the allegory then for getting beyond it? You know, what's the lesson there? And maybe, you know, I think it comes down to, you know, like maybe it's also, we're only interpreting as being a mental health allegory because the characters in the movie are making sense of what they're seeing, but there's no actual message there. But it's, you know, I can't blame us for picking up that connection and trying to logic that. So it's like, you know, I think that it's a murky thing. It didn't ruin the movie for me, but it did feel like it's like a super good packed resolution, tight narrative, but you still feel like, wait, what? But what about her? You know, what like, she's doing great. She sees her mom, but she also sees Sandy. Like, is she just like in boss bitch mode? Like, is that like she just like, you know, like it's just like,
yeah,
what happened? You know, if she's going to be in the boss bitch mode, but like what? How did she get there? You know, because she survived a traumatic event. You know, and faced her demons, I guess. And maybe it's as simple
she's just
as
okay,
and
she's just okay with it now, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
And I think too, also, if that's going to be the thing, then there could be some element that's like her mom helps somehow, like where she has that, if she has that, and that's kind of part of the thing, where it could be like she uses her fucking powers for good, or she sees those ghosts and they help her, you know. But instead, she's just, I don't know. It's just not satisfying because it feels like, again, it sets up so much that it could have. because we have so much stuff with the sort of mental health stuff, and it is like you're saying, where it's like people in the world, when she does it, like when she fucking goes and she tries to stab that girl in the eye with a knife, it's like, okay, no, actually, that's not great. You know, if your fucking head stuff is presenting that way and you're gonna do physical harm to somebody else, that's
security.
That's not, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. It's like, hey, listen, you know, I'm respectful. I understand. I don't want you to be bad. Also, that girl's awful. She's definitely awful.
Jocasta.
You know, Costa.
Yeah.
Jocasta. And it's like, yeah, she definitely stinks. But also, if you're gonna hurt other people, you need to be like, okay, actually, this is too far. Whatever this is, not great.
Yeah, like that's a big thing to come back from. And
yeah,
and also like good on her teacher and friends or boyfriend, like just that, like I don't know, like the things that were happening with her were very big signs of needing a break.
Yeah,
Other people like go get help. Just a lot of different things, and maybe that's normal in fashion school. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it is, but it's just like there's a lot of like that stuff is weird, and the fact
it's just fashion school, babe. Oh, someone, hey, they did a eyes closed knife fight. No, that's just fashion school, baby.
But she just does all this weird shit, really having issues publicly in a very open area, and
yeah,
I mean, someone can only help themselves, you know, and maybe that's a lesson in there. But I think there's an extent like witnessing this stuff in a semi-public setting. You're like, yo, let's figure this out. Especially when it becomes violent or potentially violent, you know. And then at the end, after the whole climax, rising action, the climax, you know, she's back in school and she's fucking crushing it, and she kind of like
killing it.
Yeah, it's just it feels fine enough where it doesn't feel like this, but it makes me think of like a rushed ending or a alternative ending that the producers wanted or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's what I wanted to say.
I think that's why I want that, because there are so many answers in the movie that I wonder what it's like. There's so many answers and there's so many things set up that her mental health thing and her like sort of like seeing ghosts or whatever isn't resolved. And that feels like it's like, all right, let's go from our opening scene. Our opening scene, she's dancing, she's having little fantasies, and she sees her mom in the mirror, you know, towards the end of her opening scene as we set up who she is, that she's like got this energy, she's having a great time. And then we see her mom in the mirror and she's like, oh, I don't see my mom anymore. It's fine, you know? And so then we go to the end, and that's our first thing that we set up as far as like, oh, this is our first sort of like conflict, that she's not being honest and or she is seeing her mom, you know, and she has unresolved things there. And then we get to the very end of the movie, and the last shot is she sees her mom in the mirror, and it's like great. And then she sees Anya Taylor-Joy, she sees Sandy in the mirror, and Sandy's like, I'm still fucking here, you know, maybe I'm gonna make you kill people. Maybe that's what we're getting to there, where it's like, carry it on, kill your boyfriend, let's go. So it's like, that's the thing that is like from the very beginning to the very end is with us, and it's not resolved. It's just added on to, and it's like, fuck. Like,
I think a cool ending would have been, she's back into life. She's kind of like, you know, she's working her way back in. I don't know. She's like in some kind of mediocre position, like rising back, but not 100% there. And then Jocasta or someone's, I mean, Jocasta's the only established jerk. Well, her side friends are kind of, but like, you know, like she does something judgy or mean or whatever. Yeah. And then Ellie looks into a mirror and sees Anya, sees Sandy, and, you know, and then cut to black. It's like, ooh, is she going to kill her? Like, you know, is she going to become cutthroat? Or there's something there where you don't feel good, But in this, you just feel
Yeah,
good, and to me, I interpret her seeing Sandy as the whole boss bitch. Like I'm in control. Not necessarily that she's going to be murderous, but that she's in control. And I think you can make it ambiguous and uncomfortable if you establish something against her or something that brings her down. Maybe that's a small change that could be interesting in it.
I mean,
you still have some resolution there.
And again, from a mental health standpoint, it's never as simple as get out of here, Visions. There's definitely an aspect of like with any sort of thing like that where it's like, oh, I mean, your demons are always going to be there. The thing is always going to be there. You've got to learn to like live with it, because if you fight it too much, you're going to create, this fucking bigger demon.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily the vibe that we were given. I mean, it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's like, yeah, it's always going to be there. You got to live with it. You got to deal with it and make it, be yourself through all of that, and figure out how you're going to work that way. But also, it didn't feel like that's what the lesson that we were getting to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Not that it has to have a lesson either. Not that any of that stuff is necessarily needed, but because of the setup that we did with everything, that's our main issue from the very beginning. It's like we need to.
I think the main issue there is it doesn't clarify this power or this ailment or affliction or whatever you want to call it. Because it toes the line of being a power and an ailment, or and
yeah.
I think the way the movie is, it should have been a power. I think it would have feel more consistent, but it plays it as an ailment.
Okay. Yeah.
As mental health, and because it's selective too. She sees her mom, and then somehow she's sucked into this particular storyline of ghosts, and that's not.
Yeah, but there's no like.
But like that's not clear.
There's no indicator that's like of why.
Yeah.
Like it's like, is she just in this room? She's just near this person. How does she? Is it the music? Is it like what is the thing?
I mean, you would think it'd be the fact that there's potentially dozens of bodies in there, and it's the proximity to these dead beings, humans, I guess. What else would there be? But that could be easily established.
Vampires.
That mom is buried in the little garden because we have an old English cottage, and I guess we bury people in, right? You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
But then there's also the whole thing of like, this is London, people have died everywhere. So that's established too. So it's just
I think it'd be her. Let me rewrite this. I'm gonna rewrite this here for a second. Also, I love Edgar Wright. He's one of my favorite directors. But it is what it is,
Yeah.
And also, I'm not saying that I know better than him, but for me, I'm gonna rewrite this real fast. I just wanted to say that out there. It's like, I love him. If he ever hears this, I'm not saying that you did a bad job. It was just, we can have a discussion about it. I like you more than Zack Snyder. If you ever show up in your dreams and show me like an early cut of one of your movies or your recuts of your movies, I'll be very excited and less confused than if Zack Snyder again shows up in my dream and shows me Guardians of Ga'Hoole too. I'll be I would look forward to that. I want that. But if I'm going to rewrite this movie, it's, maybe there's some sort of traumatic event where it's tied to her mom, and so she's got ghost powers a little bit, like light ghost powers. Same thing, can be the same thing. They're like a mirror. She sees sort of the other side of it. Maybe we can play with that a little bit more of there being like another side, kind of like you said in your thing where you're like, hey, there's another world in mirrors.
Yeah.
And then, so maybe there's some sort of, she goes, everything is the same. We kind of like downplay some of the mental health stuff. Everything could be the same, and maybe we think it's going to be a mental health thing, but it is just like, it's like ghost powers. And she has tea with her landlady every day, and they have like a little thing, and they have tea every day, and she tells her, she's like, oh, you love the fucking 60s? well, let me tell you these stories about the 60s, and we have some fucking tea. And then, so then she starts to have sort of like crazy dreams, and there's a bunch of mirrors. She's like, oh, this used to be a crazy party house, but it's not that anymore. But some of this stuff is just like, there's like, it's built into the walls. There's all this like, it's London. You can't change that much, and I don't want to bring contractors in here to redo the place. So it's just like kind of looks like a party house, but now I'm an old lady, Mm-hmm. And so she starts to have these dreams and kind of like have these visions about this essentially the same thing, but that's like essentially our setup to it. And so again, we can play it out the same way, but just sort of like making it a little bit more active is what I am trying to get out of it, making it a little bit more tied and connective rather than, because it feels like we have two disparate elements where we have this old lady who, like, where we have this murderous past that is not connected to our main character at all, and then we have her mental health struggles. And I think that if we like mystify it a little bit and have the mental health struggles be influenced a little bit more directly by the lady and have that relationship be a little bit more maybe, then it makes a little bit more sense to me. It makes me feel good.
Yeah. I agree. I think
Good. If you didn't, I would be so mad at you. I'd be like,
no, I think
John,
I think it would have.
the contractually, you're just supposed to agree with anything that I say.
Yeah. Except
That's a contract, dude.
yeah. Except for what was this one thing we've disagreed on? It was like one movie.
The Green Knight, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. Except for the Green Knight, I broke the contract for that. I couldn't stand it.
It's okay.
No, I mean I'm sure it's a movie that will age better. But on the flip side of that, I watched that movie,
Okay.
and from what I heard, this is completely 180 throwback to last week's or 2 weeks ago episode. But I wonder like how many people watching Dune felt like I watched Green Knight.
Yeah.
But it's been very interesting. This is a huge pivot, but I think it's pertinent. It's trendy, whatever.
Yeah.
How many
It's
people
hot. It's hot right now.
thought it was boring?
People thought Dune was boring.
Yeah, and I can see why they thought that, but I disagree, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And we touched on that in that podcast. But I don't know. Like but it's very interesting, the people that thought it was boring, and then the people who liked it. Like my siblings. They're not cinephiles. They're very casual movie watchers, I guess. Like they watch movies.
And they liked it?
And then there's other people who I would maybe a little bit more refined or deeper kind of consumers of entertainment, and they thought it was boring. And so I was just like, I don't get it. and I don't know. I mean, even Christian, he's got a very deep kind of appreciation for cinema, but sometimes he's very wants to be entertained, up first and foremost, and he loved Dune. So it's like it's a very interesting movie. I wouldn't call it polarizing in a sense because there's not a lot of conversation about it, but it is polarizing in the sense that there's a lot of people have just thought it was boring. And I don't know if you have any reaction to that. I mean,
I just don't understand what they're looking for. If it's like, I don't know. I'm like a little bit like, I think that if it's boring, like I think there's enough action and like, as again, all of this is like put through the lens of someone who watched the book. Oh my gosh, yeah, I technically I did watch the book, but who read the book and knows all the shit that's going on, and like some of the background stuff. But also, I think that they do a really good job of cutting through the bullshit of the book that could have made the book boring. And it's like, it's essentially just all action, like there's some stuff where it's like, hey, I don't know. I watched it again. I don't know if I've watched it again but I watched it again last Sunday, again in IMAX. Because I went with my good friend and, he hadn't seen it yet. And so I was like, yeah, I'll fucking absolutely see this again.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it just moves so fast. And it's like, oh, look, here it is. Here's Arrakis. Here's like some of the basic stuff that you might need to know.
I think it's really good at world building, and its world building and exposition is actually full of spoilers. Like a lot of that stuff is revealed by the end of the book, like 25 hours into this 30-hour book.
Yeah,
and it all does that in a very calculated and good way, like a very effective way of
I think so.
Of delivering information, so you know what the hell you're watching and why things are important.
Yeah,
but it's like
if it loses you right away, then you didn't want to watch it because it fucking in the first there's a little like if you're like looking for visual treats and like action shit, like it's there already in the exposition. They have a fight with the fucking Fremen, you know, it's like it's already there. They're already blowing shit up. And then stuff looks cool. I don't know, like if people think it's boring.
What? Yeah, and then
I don't know what you're looking for.
And it
honestly,
has existed in a world where Game of Thrones existed, and it's the same politics stuff as Game of Thrones, only moving faster in a 2.5 hour experience. And it's hard because I read the book, so I don't know how hard it is to pick up the lore and like understanding the mentats and the I forgot what the meta.
But they don't even bother with the mentats.
Yeah,
they're just like. They don't even bother. They don't even bother with any of the old school like, oh, the technology has gone too far. You know, one of the guys that we work with a lot, who we're going on a trip here in a little bit, he didn't like it. He gave it a solid 6 out of 10. He thought it was slow. So I was like, it's like, I mean, if it is what it is, he thought there was too much exposition, and then he thought it moved too fast. It's a very confusing take, but that's kind of par for the course.
Yeah.
But it was just like
it's so
like honestly,
obviously we are biased, but I can't tell how entrenched and how much I love this movie, and trying to break it down into understanding. Like I don't know if I'm capable of understanding, because I don't think it's impossible, or I don't think they're wrong.
Like understanding from other people's opinions.
I'm not saying they're wrong, but I just can't fathom it, and I guess me just talking about it makes me like it more and gets me further from understanding that perspective. But
yeah.
They greenlit the second one, and I'm fucking happy for that. And I'm so glad. I want to see how they do the Princess, is it Irulan or whatever Irulan, but his sister. That's going to be interesting and funny to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that's where where it'll like, and in the movie, the first one, it does this because you can see the visuals, like how weird this world is and how it's such a cool reimagination, or maybe the original imagination of a sci-fi world, you know, and how fresh that is. And, you know, I think it'll shine in the second one once we see more of the Fremen, their ways, you know, his sister getting more of the Bene Gesserit kind of mind sharing shit. Like,
yeah, it's the second movie's going to get trippy as shit as they do that like water of life thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
Where Paul trips out for 3 weeks too. It's going to be tons of that. And
there's going to be like, if people thought this was like, that's the thing. It's like the second movie is not for people who didn't enjoy the first movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, so hopefully there will be enough, like, I don't know. I hope they finish at least the first book, and I'm sure that they will. I haven't read the second book, but I would love, because Denny, my good friend, was like, I want to finish Paul's journey. I want to do 3 movies total. But I think that he'll probably just get 2, because just from knowing the second half of the book, where it's going, it's like, it would be an incredible feat of filmmaking if he's able to pull it around and like pull it back, but still, because it's about to get fucking weird up in here.
Yeah, I think like, the way yeah, I think that the quick way to that is to make that climactic battle a huge centerpiece. It's kind of fast in the movie, and in the book.
Have you finished the book now?
I'm near the end. The Emperor's hold up, I guess, is where I'm at.
Yeah. But you've gotten past the time jump.
Yeah. I'm deep in it.
Yeah.
And I think
obviously they'll skip the time jump.
Yeah. I think one thing that'll be genuinely interesting is to see how Chaney is portrayed, because you got Zendaya, and she's a huge marketing pull and a good actor, and she's kind of a one-dimensional character in the book. She's kind of just a woman who's strong for her man and bears children, and so it'll be interesting to see how they make her better, So I'm looking forward to that. And so that's a change that is happening. You can almost guarantee
it's happening,
that's
and I'm
gonna be
excited
better.
for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's Chani. I don't know. Chani.
Yeah, the audiobook does Chaney, so who knows.
Okay.
But it just makes me
Well, the
think of Dick
audiobook's
Cheney.
probably closer. It's probably better to me. But that's what I was like, no, let's do Chani.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chani sounds good to me. But Chaney could be it too. I don't fucking know.
Who knows?
I'm not Frank Herbert or Frank Herbert Senior, Junior. But yeah, I'm incredibly excited about it. I'm glad that they get in a second one. I hope that they get a third one to finish off. I mean, I haven't read the second book again, like I said, but I hope that he gets it to finish it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think that'll happen.
I mean, if we can finish the first book, I think that's pretty good. Obviously, I'd want to see the rest of it, but hey,
I just love the world.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so that was our 10 minutes on Dune, or talking about Last Night in Soho. What's your favorite Edgar Wright movie?
Let me pull them up. I actually was pulling up my letterbox to see what movies I watched recently, but I will be able to tell you what Edgar Wright movies I've seen and then give you an accurate answer. I think I'll cheat and say the Cornetto trilogy. So I like those 3 movies. If I had to pick a favorite out of that, Hot Fuzz. I love the ending of that. It's such a just wild ending where he's
so good
in a huge gunfight with all the boomers in town, basically.
Yeah,
it's a great movie. The funny thing is I tried watching that in 2007 when it first came out, and I was sophomore in high school, and I was like, this is dumb. British humor, dumb. But then watched it like a little over 10 years later, and it's like, holy shit, love this. So that's my answer. How about you?
Yeah. Man, I don't know, dude. I love most of his movies. I would say I'm going to rank them real fast. I'm going to go, let's say, we've got Shaun of the Dead. This is not me ranking them. I'm just saying Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, The World's End, Baby Driver, and Last Night in Soho. He's only got 6 movies. That's wild.
It is.
So I think I'm going to go Last Night in Soho last. No offense.
None taken from me.
I love you. I'm just talking directly to Edgar right
that
now,
makes sense.
my sweet good friend. No offense, Edgar. This is my least favorite one. I still like it more than a lot of things, and I'm sure that I'll watch it again and be like, I appreciate this more, or, look at it this way, but, didn't completely vibe with me this time through. I would say next, dog. I guess next I'm going to go The End of the World, The World's End.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Which I also really like. I rewatched that movie recently, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Or I love it a lot more than I did. Man. I think I'm going to go Shaun of the Dead at number 4. I think Scott Pilgrim 3, Baby Driver 2, Hot Fuzz 1.
Oh, you agree with me then?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Hot Fuzz is brilliant. I fucking love it.
Yeah. I'd love to do a Cornetto trilogy thing.
Oof.
I don't know. It would be a good
I
format
know, man.
if we just do them all. Probably do them all and then make one episode about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people didn't love our Mummy series. It just waned on that, which is
they were like, nah, get the fuck out of here with that, guys. We don't want to talk about this. Also, his TV series, the TV series Spaced, that he did with Egg. Oh my God, what's his name? Simon Pegg.
Oh yeah.
Is very funny, and I really like it.
Nice.
As well.
Yeah, I need to watch more things. I'm looking at my viewing diary. I saw 3 movies in October. It was also one of the most busiest months of my life to this point.
Yeah, you were running around all over the place.
Yeah, but I guess to naturally
Punching
segue,
people.
I only watched one movie since last recording a podcast, and it was Double Jeopardy.
Okay.
Starring Ashley Judd.
Oh,
the 1999 romantic
classic
thriller thing. I don't know how to
romantic thriller.
I don't know how to describe the movie, but it's a fun movie. It's good and it moves. And if you're feeling nostalgic about the 90s and a stupid but fun little kind of story.
Yeah.
With some like, it just moves and the action's stupid, but it moves and it's a good movie. I don't know. I've seen it twice in the last 2 or 3 years. You know, it's not a favorite.
There's a lot of those.
I liked it.
There's a lot of those movies. Like I watched Jade recently. Like not recently, but like maybe a month ago.
Okay.
And Jade is a David Caruso movie. DJ Caruso? David Caruso. He's a guy who takes his sunglasses off in CSI Miami, I want to say. He's like the main guy. He was on NYPD Blue. Anyway, he was a big 90s guy. And it was so bad and weird and so inherently 90s. But it was like a psychosexual thriller. And it was incredibly weird and not good, but also entertaining.
Yeah.
In that way of like, yeah, they made movies like this back then for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be jumping in on some 80s and 90s movies for a while. It's just such a treasure trove of stuff. And
they made so many weird, like reductive things when we were children and watching the good versions of all the things.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
but I watched, and it's interesting, it's fun that we brought up Green Knight, because I remember I was like, I fucking turned off King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. And you were like, I like that movie. And I was like, get it out of here, because it's not King Arthur. And I went back and I actually rewatched it. And I don't know what my motivation was to rewatch it, or because I think I turned it off 5 minutes into it initially.
Oh, wow. You really got
and
it. Wait, is this the Guy Ritchie one or the Keira Knightley one?
Yeah. No, the Guy Ritchie one.
Okay.
Is this the one you liked, or the King Arthur with Clive Owen?
I kind of like both.
I'm okay. You're allowed to like both. I wasn't sure if maybe it was that one that you were like, I fucking love that one.
No, I remember this now. We were talking about the Charlie Hunnam Guy Ritchie one.
Yeah.
So you ended up kind of liking it, or I want to hear.
I rewatched it. I know it's going somewhere. But I rewatched it, and I did like it as not an Arthurian like thing, but as like a hey, we're just gonna take we're gonna take some of the names and like some of the basic ideas of the stuff, and then make kind of like a cool fantasy thing that has like literally very little to do with any retelling of King Arthur stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like, hey, there's some fucking magic here. Some of this stuff doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. If you think about it in terms of like King Arthur stuff, it's not right. But it is kind of fun. There it is. It's kind of fun, and it's medieval, and it's like sort of there. And there's magic. Fuck off. Let's go, dude.
Yeah. No,
So watching it that way, I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of fun.
nice. Yeah,
But
it moves.
Again, it is definitely not King Arthur.
No. Guy Ritchie was just he's just doing his thing. I don't know.
Which also made me think about like, again, not being a British person and having this sort of like, they're like, I'm fucking tired of it, dude. I've fucking seen some King Arthur shit. I've seen him do it. I know about it. Let me do some new cool guy stuff. You know?
Yeah, which is fair.
Let's do that.
Which is fair. I mean, especially if you're going for the Hollywood blockbuster, which that movie does, and I mean, it succeeds. But I think there's too many people, such as yourself, that don't want to see that, who are the ones driving the viewership on those types of things. So that's probably ultimately why it failed.
Yeah, like who else wants to see King Arthur stuff?
Yeah.
It's me. You know, and I want to see it like the Green Knight. Fucking weird, and I just want to see it like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. But again, divorcing myself from those expectations and watching again, it's like, yeah, it's a pretty good little fun little, medieval blockbuster type thing. I think in that same weekend I watched Willow, or watched parts of Willow for the first time.
That's not kind of on my list too.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I could actually watch that fully and like pay attention to that. We could talk about that one because that's an interesting.
Willow.
Because I think George Lucas did that.
Yeah, isn't it hard to watch, like to find?
I think it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, well, I think
They
that's probably
probably
why, because I think I was trying to watch it before Disney Plus released, but now
Yeah, probably.
But now it exists.
But I think it's on Disney Plus now because they bought all the shit.
It is confirmed, so I'd be down to do
when
that.
They paid in.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. Awesome. Any closing thoughts on what did you give? What did you give last night at Soho?
I give it 3 out of 5, but it's like a high 3 out of
Okay.
5, if that makes sense. Because like
It's like a really solid 3 out of 5.
Like
I'll go with that.
It's more than it's a movie that existed that was pretty good and competent. It was like I liked it, but I have some issues with it. So that's my rating for reasons stated over the last 45 minutes.
Yep. I will also agree with this, but that rating is subject to change if I watch it again and find it to be either less desirable and or more desirable because I'm able to watch it with fresh eyes. Because I do love Edgar Wright, and I'm sure like there's a lot of stuff, but I just think he answers too many questions.
Fair enough.
So there.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us on Stinky Popcorn Boys. And
that's us.
Yeah.
Hey, hit us up on Twitter, YouTube, and rate and review this Stinky Podcast wherever Stinky Podcasts come. Check out the merch in the merch store at jtmusic.com/merch. Did I say it? I just made it up. So that's wrong.
Just go to jtmerch.com or jtmusic.co and then navigate
Boom,
to the
look
store.
at that.
Yeah.
Look at that tag.
Effort.
You fucking did it. Hey, man, I was like, I'm like close or around what it is, but I don't have it written down and I don't have it pulled up, so I'm pretty sure I am just making this
It'll
up.
probably come up if you Google it. But yeah, thank you guys. Go check out the merch, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, love you. And as they say in London, oh, watch out for your scissors! They're in my eye! Drink your tea.